What's up, you guys? I hope you're all doing okay. I know I've been very absent from this channel, and I don't even have a particular reason why. I mean, yes, work got in the way. That's basically the reason. But now that we have this pandemic going on, I figured now is the time to come back. Now is the time to create content for this channel because it helps me cope with the situation, and it also gives me the chance to cover a lot of TV shows and movies that I've been meaning to cover on this channel for quite a while. And just to let you know, there were two movies that I actually got to see in theater before all of the shit went down. First one being The Invisible Man. The other one was A Quiet Place Part 2, but the review embargo still won't let me talk about it. So I will be there for The Invisible Man and A Quiet Place 2. We just have to wait and see. But now I decided it's time to talk about one of my all-time favorite TV shows, Sons of Anarchy. Let's get to it. I know a lot of people out there that were extremely hesitant to even watch this show, to even watch the first episode of this show, because a lot of people had the idea that this show would just be about a bunch of douchebags and possibly glorifying a life of violence. And I'm here to tell you that's not the case. This show is actually a drama, a hard-hitting Greek tragedy. Yes, I shit you not, I'm not making this up. Showrunner and series creator Sutter has actually based Sons of Anarchy on Hamlet. Yes, Hamlet is the inspiration for Sons of Anarchy, because you can take the backdrop of the motorcycle club to tell a fascinating story that deals with betrayal, with family ties, with external and internal issue of a kingdom. And that's basically what this show is all about. You could take the plot of Sons of Anarchy and tell a period piece, and it would be no different, only the technology would be different. But since the show is loosely based on Hamlet, our main character, Jax Teller, is basically the Hamlet of this show. He's played by Hunnam, and again, a lot of people give him a lot of shit because he's been in crappy blockbuster films. But you know what? He's a fabulous actor, and he proves it in this show. The show kicks off and we're introduced to Sam Crow. What is Sam Crow? Well, Sam Crow stands for Sons of Anarchy Motorcycle Club Redwood Original. And Jax Teller, our main character, is the son of the founder of said club. His father passed away during a motorcycle accident. Or did he? Because the current president in charge is his stepfather, Clay Murrow, played by the one and only Pearlman. Clay is now married to Jax's mother, Gemma, who is the Cersei Lannister of this show. Even though, let me get this right out the gate, no character in this show is without sin, and no character is an absolute villain. Every single character is surprisingly fleshed out and has a surprisingly well-written arc. Sometimes you sympathize and empathize with them, sometimes you wish they were dead. And that's how you write fascinating characters. Anyhow, Jax finds the manuscript of his deceased father and begins to question his mother and his stepfather, because it seems like they were involved in the death of his father. And now we have this brilliant show. I'm honest with you guys, this show blew me away. I hadn't seen it in ages, and now I binged the whole thing again. This show is crowded with religious allegories, with deep and well-written characters, solid acting, an amazing soundtrack, and an overall fascinating plot. It's very reminiscent of Game of Thrones, believe it or not. But unlike Game of Thrones, I don't think the ending pissed off too many people, because the ending of Sons of Anarchy is one of the most hard-hitting things I've ever seen. I saw it yesterday. I'm still coping with it. Like, I teared up. I never tear up watching TV, but this series finale hit me where I live. This show is basically divided into two very different halves. The first half deals with the internal struggle between Jax Teller and Clay Murrow, and also Clay's hunger for power and his eventual loss of power. That is basically the first half of the show. The second half is the tragedy of Jax Teller. What becomes when this guy, this anti-hero who actually wants to follow his father's vision and to get the club out of the gun business and to turn it into a legitimate business, what happens is a hard-hitting tragedy that turns people into monsters, and I loved every second of it. Now, when I talk about great characters, I really mean it. Like, this motorcycle club has fabulous characters, and they all have amazing arcs, and they may seem stereotypical at first, but they're not. Murrow, for example. Loved the guy. Ron Pearlman killed it. You meet the guy and you think he's this mustache-twirling villain. He is not. Sometimes you really feel for the guy, and sometimes you're rooting for him and Jax to actually form a genuine relationship. But there's always shit around the corner to get in the way of all of that, because Charming, the city where the show takes place, is basically hell. And this motorcycle club and this town just poisons everyone and everything, which is why Tara, Jax's girlfriend and later wife, wants to get out of there. She wants to take Jax's children and get the fuck out of there. It's another great thing. Even the love interest, even Tara, has an amazing arc. She starts out as the doctor that is very hesitant of starting a relationship with a gang member. And but at some point, she actually enjoys her privileges as an old lady. And I love that arc so much. Same goes for Tick. I thought I would hate the guy. He just seemed like the right-hand man to Clay. He's not. He has some of the funniest moments, but he also has some of the most tragic moments. Once you learn more about his private life and once we get to know the dude as who he really is, dude, shit's heartbreaking. I love the guy. Same goes for Juice. We meet this dude, and he is sort of the comedy and comic relief because he's the naive one, he is the stupid one, and he's out of all of those guys, he's the one with the most insecurities. And at first, they play this for laughs. Later on, it turns into a bitter tragedy, and he is one of the most tragic figures of the entire show. Then we got Opie, Beta from The Walking Dead, Ryan Hurst himself. He's a giant, man. But this giant is Jackson's best friend, and he is such a lovable presence. And it's even weird for me to say that, because all of these guys are killers. Then we got Bobby, and Bobby is the most pragmatic and level-headed one out of all of these other gang members, and he is normally both the voice of reason and the heart of the group, and I love the dude. As I said, there are layers to these characters. Chip's another great addition. He is the most loyal one. He seems like the most hardened, the rough one, and he is, but he also is the most sensitive out of all of these guys. You actually have some scenes with him just crying, bawling his eyes out when something happens to his friends. And this is another thing. This show does not shy away from violence, and like fucked up violence. I mean Game of Thrones style violence, and also killing off main characters. And when main characters die, it hits you like a harpoon through the heart. There are several deaths on the show that influence Jax Teller. For example, at some point he loses his best friend Opie, and when this happens, 50% of Jax Teller is gone. He becomes bitter, he becomes hardened, and it hurts us. As a viewer, it hurt me to see that development, because we were rooting for Jax to get Tara, to get his boys, and get the fuck out of Charming. But something was always lurking around the corner. Very often that something had a name, and it was Gemma Teller, Jax's mother, who also can be a complete bitch, but during season 2, for example, I really felt sorry for her. She's just that layered, and Katey Sagal plays her perfectly. She's the mother of the entire club, basically. Everyone bows to her, bows to the queen, and again, she has such a strong presence on this show. I loved her performance throughout all 7 seasons, but sometimes I just hated her character. But partially because she was portrayed that well. The most hard-hitting death for me personally was the death of Tara Knowles. When Tara died, Jackson died completely. Season 7 is basically the downward spiral of Jax Teller. And the fact that she was killed by his mother, and the fact that she lies about it and causes one gang war after another by framing the Chinese for the death of Terra Knowles, is one of the most fascinating, riveting, yet heartbreaking plots of the entire show. And when the truth finally comes out, my God, Jax is forced to kill his own mom. That shit, wow, shit got really real. I just gotta say, this show hit all the right notes for me. It does have some give and take every now and then, because some plot threads drag on quite a bit. For example, the worst example for all of this is season 3, where they travel to Ireland. It takes ages. But overall, the show is a must watch, especially as a binge. It's one of those shows that's better when you binge it, because then you have the whole picture. And you don't realize all the subtle hints that the show has been giving you until you decide to binge it. The way it all wraps up, the way the characters end, it's brutal, it's bittersweet, it's heartfelt, it's emotionally riveting. I gotta tell you, I love the show. Sons of Anarchy is amazing. So now I gotta ask you guys, have you seen Sons of Anarchy? What's your favorite season? Who's your favorite character? And how did you like the finale? Let me know in the comment section below. And thank you guys, as always, for watching. If you like what you see here and you want to see more, then just subscribe.